I think grow exports, number one, because that's something we need to do. And when we keep talking about, the previous history of Pakistan and the boom to bust cycle, the reason that, whenever your economy grows over a certain speed, a GDP percentage of, let's say, maybe 6% or something like that, you go bust because the imports grow faster than the exports and the trade deficit comes and that causes you to go bust. So I think we really need to focus on exports. We need to fix the tax system because I think it's completely broken. It's anti-growth at the moment. And we really need to lower the numbers for growth to take place in Pakistan. And definitely we need to, sell off the loss-making SOEs at a really fast pace. Because right now what we're doing is we're only looking at, let's say, the revenue side and the export side. But what about the costs and the losses? The SOEs are, bleeding billions and billions of dollars every year, and we need to curtail the loss and just, offload them as soon as possible. If you look at regional taxation, our tax is really regressive because the rates of tax that people are paying, first of all, we need to broaden the tax base. There are very few people that are paying the correct amount of tax and, contributing to the national exchequer. Most of the people are undocumented and out of the tax system. So we need to encourage people to come into the tax system. And the way you can do that is to have rates which are acceptable. If people think it's just, unfeasible to be in the system, they're not going to enter the system. So you need to encourage them to come in the system. You need to give them the confidence that the system will keep its word. You need to build the trust with the taxpayer, and you need to show them where their money is going. Because if they feel that their money is being well spent, be it in infrastructure, be it in healthcare, be it in education, then they don't mind contributing. It's when they say that, oh, we're giving a super amount of money, where is it all going? Where is it all evaporating to? That's when the level of trust is not there. So we need to build trust, show them where their money is being well spent. We need to get more people in the system, and we need people to share the burden across the economy. The state-owned enterprises are bleeding billions of dollars. And every year that you delay that costs you billions of dollars. So even if you give them today, let's say for free or for $1, you're avoiding next year's loss. So they should just make a simple calculation that delaying this for 1 year, that's the loss for 1 year. Will I be able to sell it for more than that? If you can't, get rid of it immediately. It's a very simple decision. PIA, offloading was amazing. The group that has bought it is a very capable group. The people who are there, you've got Arif Habib there, you've got people like Gaur Ijaz there. So you've got a good consortium of people who bought the business. And I think if they can just, get more good business groups like this to take over the SOEs, they'll be able to turn them around. If you look at what happened with the banks in Nawaz Sharif's earlier tenure, when he offloaded the banks, they were all bleeding money. And look at them now. Now they're like contributing billions and billions to the, exchequer, and they're paying huge taxes. So this is a simple formula which we need to follow. War footing, it has to be done at high speed. You cannot afford it. It cannot be more than 12 months. It has to be done. Everything that should be offloaded has to be offloaded within 12 months. The broader your experience, the broader the sectors you can represent and understand. So like you mentioned, the retail sector. So retail is approximately 18% of the country's GDP, yet they only pay around 1% of the taxation. Now that's crazy. So there may be like 20 retailers or 25 retailers, which are the huge retailers, which are carrying the burden of the tax net on this sector. And then hundreds of thousands of retailers, which are just not in the sector. So we need to bring them in. We need to encourage them. I think the government has launched an initiative to bring them in. To me, I think it's more than a kind initiative. I think to the people in the net, it's a bit unfair, but still I understand that the government has to attract people into the net, so it's okay. But now they need to show the numbers. I think when the government said that they're releasing this scheme, they said there are around 3 million retailers in Pakistan. And they said with this scheme, they plan on bringing 1 million retailers in. I think even if they're able to bring 500,000 retailers, so 500,000, it'll have been a great success. And I think that's the number they should be aiming for. You're absolutely right. And we have been telling the government this for years. The minister over there is very good, Owais Lagari, very hardworking, and he understands the problems really well. But his hands are also tied by international multilaterals, and the IMF also, controls exactly what he can do to a certain extent. So he has to go to them because we borrowed money from the IMF and we have to live within their conditions, which is fair enough because sometimes you need to have that fiscal discipline to run your economy. But that also restricts Owais from doing things that he exactly wants to do, or he could help the industry. So what's happened because of this, and I think what the IMF also needs to understand, is you're forcing people to leave the grid. And when they leave the grid, the burden of the grid gets put on lesser people. So then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that the rate is not going to be able to adjust itself because the losses will keep increasing, because the good consumers will leave. They will put up their solar, their wind, or whatever, their renewables, or anything they can. And now with the prices of batteries falling, if you look at the imports of batteries from the world, especially from China, I think the last year, maybe the figure is, I can't remember exactly, but doubled or tripled last year, which means that, okay, first they were putting up renewables for kind of their backup or running during the day. But now once they put up the batteries, they'll just completely leave the grid. So I think this is something that the government has to really look at. They have to engage the IMF, they have to talk to the IMF, and they have to bring them on board. And then they have to take collective positive decisions which are in the best interest of Pakistan. Look, they have to do a lot of things. Look at agriculture and crops and cattle and all this sector. It amounts to around 23% of your economy. And again, it's paying around 1% of the tax. So, this is something which is not sustainable. With the retail being at around 18% and the agriculture and the crops and cattle and all that stuff being at around 23%, and between them paying 1% and 1%, and the rest of the economy, be it the banks, the industrial sector, everybody, the salaried class, carrying all this weight, it's not going to happen. So I think the IMF and the government have to work together to bring both these sectors and get them documented in a serious way. And another area where they need to get people involved is, getting women into the workforce. I mean, Pakistan really has to now get, there have to be two people in the household earning an income. You can't just have the husband working. It's not going to work anymore. So you need to double the household income, which would take care of a lot of the problems, be it, let's say, child labor, better nutrition at home, other financial issues. I think if both spouses are working, it will really help the household income. It'll help the economy. There'll be more money coming into the economy. The spend will increase, and the growth will come in where it's needed. So I think we need to encourage and incentivize women to join the workforce. And we also just generally need to make investing easier in Pakistan. If you look at the ease of doing business, we're very low on that. And we really need to skyrocket up this. I think the government needs to do a focused effort on this. They need to make a team of maybe, a few people, not a big team, because I think big teams never deliver. So maybe just a team of 5 to 6 people who are going to implement these, reforms which need to be done to make the ease of doing business in Pakistan better. And it's not a team to just advise, because I think we've got a lot of great advisorial committees, a lot of good committees which give advice, but it doesn't get implemented. So the problem in the country is implementation. We need to now just create an implementation team, which is a small tactical surgical team which does implementations and reports back to the Prime Minister every 2 weeks on the progress of these implementations. I mean, there are many ways the government has to, I'd say they have to do financial simulations on what works. They'll have to work with the Taxation Department, with the IMF, with the Finance Ministry. Aurangzeb is from the private sector. He's run one of the largest private sector banks in the country. He's got a lot of foreign good experience. So I think he'll have to sit with the tax policy people, with the tax collection people, and come up with policies. Maybe, let's say, give companies tax breaks which hire women, lower the taxation. If you hire every year, your taxation is lower by a couple of percentage points. Maybe give the spouse a tax break, that if the other spouse works officially and in a documented sector, the spouse gets a tax break, or they get a combined household tax break. There are many ways. Or when they're buying certain things, if both spouses are working, if they're buying a property or a car, maybe they get a benefit in that, in the taxes that they're giving. So there's lots of ways to do it, but we need to move fast, get them working, get them incentivized, and motivate them. I think there's a lot of things. Energy is one of them, and I think currency is one of them. Our real effective exchange rate, as we've kept saying for the longest time, over a period of the last 20 years, has averaged somewhere between maybe 107 and 110. And I think in all export growing economies of the world, the real effective exchange rate has been around 90 to 95 approximately. And I mean, China did this for decades to grow their exports and manufacturing base. The US nearly, kind of went on an economic war with them, saying that you've undervalued your currency to help exports. But this is something you have to do. And this again feeds into that boom to bust thing I was saying. If your currency has, a value of 110, which means it's overvalued, the imports are going to come in automatically. So again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you've kept your currency high, imports are going to come in, and exports will not go out at that speed. So we need to, keep it slightly undervalued, maybe at 95 or 98 or something like that, but it cannot be over 100 because that's just disastrous. And we've seen the effects over that for the last 3 decades. And we also need to change our export mix. We can't be exporting the same things we were exporting 30 years ago. So we need to get into more technical, export areas, more value-added areas, rather than just exporting raw materials or very basic things. We need to see how to add value to everything that we export. I think it's a mixture of all these things, right? When you look at the tax rates, you look at the energy rates, you look at the the currency and the rear. So when you look at all these things, and then you also look at the smuggling, which is coming in, there's a huge amount of smuggled goods available everywhere throughout Pakistan. And I think enforcement has to be done against this smuggling in a big way, because you go to all the markets, you can see stuff, coming in from all over the world, and it's just, available in our markets to our consumers. So our products don't get access to foreign markets, but their goods are just coming in, smuggled without paying any duties or taxes.